ESPN just launched their new $2 billion sportsbook, and I think it's going to fail. Now, as a reminder, in August, ESPN signed a licensing deal with Penn Entertainment to rebrand Barstool Sportsbook as ESPN Bet. They agreed to pay ESPN $1.5 billion in cash over 10 years, and they granted the worldwide leader in sports $500 million in equity warrants as part of the deal. And Penn stock popped 10% overnight as CEO Jay Snowden touted ESPN's ability to help Penn lower its customer acquisition costs. But is ESPN's brand really strong enough to make a difference in the sportsbook space? FanDuel and DraftKings have spent tens of billions of dollars over the last decade, signing up millions of users in the United States. Michael Rubin and Fanatics have poached top executives from all over the industry for their newly launched sportsbook. And Penn's first go-around with Barstool Sports certainly left a sour taste in investors' mouths. When Penn Entertainment paid $163 million for a 36% stake in Barstool Sports in 2021, many people, including myself, thought it was an excellent idea. Barstool was doing about $100 million in annual revenue. They had diversified income streams, including 7 to 8 figures of revenue from audio ads, commerce, digital ads, events, and more. And partnering with a new age, sports-centric media company like Barstool seemed like a smart strategy to reduce hefty customer acquisition costs. Things got off to a hot start, too. Barstool's audience helped Penn drive signups in several newly legalized sports betting states. The company's stock shot up 1,500% from its 2020 low. Barstool doubled its annual revenue to $200 million, and Penn even agreed to pay $388 million for the remaining 64% of Barstool that it didn't already own. For context, sports betting is a notoriously expensive market to acquire customers. DraftKings, for example, says their average customer acquisition cost is $371. Hence, acquiring customers at a cheaper rate through media leverage can be extremely valuable. But just a few months after that second deal was signed, Penn Entertainment agreed to sell Barstool Sports back to founder Dave Portnoy for just $1, and the company booked a $633 million loss on the deal. That's $82 million more than it even paid for Barstool. Now, why would Penn do that? They had just spent over $550 million on Barstool Sports, including $388 million just a few months prior. And they were now going to walk away from the deal without getting anything else in return? Well, the truth is that the plan wasn't working. Penn publicly said that Barstool's edgy content upset regulators, making it difficult to enter new states. But the reality is that Penn had peaked with no more than 5% of online market share in any of its 17 states, putting them in 5th place and well behind competitors like DraftKings, FanDuel, and BetMGM. So that's where ESPN came in. Bob Iger and Disney finally decided it was time to enter the sports betting market, and Penn convinced its shareholders that it was worth taking another stab at the licensing strategy via a bigger deal with a bigger partner like ESPN. Now, to give you some context on just how much bigger ESPN is than Barstool, Barstool receives about 8 million unique monthly website visitors each month, whereas ESPN is at 117 million monthly unique visitors to their website. And ESPN's distribution capabilities cannot be understated. They're in 72 million households via cable television. They have 26 million subscribers to ESPN Plus, including 800,000 new subscribers in Q4, and they have more than 150 million social media followers on just their main accounts. We're not talking about any sub-accounts, and that includes their TikTok account, which is the most followed brand on all of TikTok. ESPN also has a huge fantasy football database, and ESPN Bet will immediately be live in 17 states: Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia, all because of Penn's existing licenses. Still, I'm not convinced that this deal is nearly as good as everyone is making it out to be. When I went on CNBC 3 months ago to talk about the ESPN Penn deal for ESPN Bet, I described it as a Hail Mary for both companies, and I still believe that. It's a Hail Mary for Penn because things didn't work out with Barstool, so they cut their losses by booking a $633 million loss, gave the business back to Dave Portnoy for quite literally $1, signed a $2 billion licensing deal with a bigger player in ESPN, and will try one last time to grab meaningful market share in the sports betting market. That's not to say it's a bad idea. I mean, they didn't really have another option. And partnering with ESPN offers them the best chance at competing with industry leaders before they eventually might have to go out of business. For context, FanDuel and DraftKings alone own 73% of the US sports betting market. But this is also a Hail Mary for Disney and ESPN. Think about it this way. ESPN is the worldwide leader in sports, generating $16 billion in annual revenue and $2.9 billion in annual profit. But they have also lost nearly 30 million cable subscribers over the last decade, going from 100 million homes in the United States to about 70 million homes in the United States today. ESPN's streaming service, ESPN Plus, also lost subscribers for the first time ever earlier this this year, and ESPN's underlying economics make the business much less desirable in the future. This is why Disney CEO Bob Iger has been publicly courting a buyer for ESPN for months. Now, don't get me wrong. A $2 billion licensing deal is great, especially when Penn Entertainment manages the technology and runs the overall ESPN Bet platform. But my argument is that $150 million per year in additional revenue. Remember, Penn is paying $1.5 billion in cash over 10 years and $500 million in equity warrants. And that $150 million per year in revenue only increases ESPN's annual revenue by about 1% per year. And when you add in the fact that ESPN has sat back and watched other companies like FanDuel and DraftKings build multi-billion-dollar sports betting businesses, only to get involved themselves much later, and not own a significant enough piece of the upside via equity, it only gets worse for the company. So no, I don't think Penn will reach its goal of owning 20% of the US sports betting market by 2027. Penn Entertainment hasn't shown an ability to build a good enough product. FanDuel and DraftKings have too big of a head start, and other DFS-based companies like PrizePicks, Underdog, and Sleeper at least have a unique offer. So maybe I'll be wrong. It's still too early to deem anything a failure. Remember, 50% of the United States doesn't even have access to mobile sports betting yet, and I'd be happy to change my mind. But Penn's first go-around with Barstool ended up being a dud, and simply rerunning the same playbook with a bigger player won't guarantee success. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing 2 to 3 of these breakdowns every single week, breaking down the most interesting topics in sports business.